Hello everybody! So today we're going to start with step-by-step 1.9 in Access. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to experiment a little bit with row heights. So the first thing I want you to do is put your cursor at the bottom of the border of any record in the record selector area until you get the up and down arrows. And then I want you to click and drag, and you'll notice that once you let go, whatever height that you've applied to that particular row will apply to all the different rows. Okay, so then let's go back and undo that without hitting our undo button. We could obviously undo, but let's go to the records group at the top and let's choose more. This is in our ribbon, and let's choose row height. And right now we have the row height set at 42 point. Let's click standard height, which is 14.25, and then say OK, and it goes back to normal. Next, let's look at resizing our columns. This will be very familiar to you from Excel. We have a couple of different ways that we can increase the size of our columns. The address column obviously is a little too small, so we can position our cursor in the middle of the title so that we have our double arrows. Click with your left mouse button and drag to the right. Let's drag to about the middle of the word city on the next column and drop, and we'll see that everything fits in there now. The other way we can increase our columns to auto fit is to put our cursor again in between any of the two headers until we have our arrows and double click, and then the particular column to the left that we're working with will auto size. But let's say we want to do the entire spreadsheet at the same time, then we click and select everything with this selector piece in the corner, top left corner, and then we can position our cursor on any of these columns when we get our double arrows and then double click, and it will automatically position everything to fit the widest row in that column. Click on your member ID field in the very first record to deselect everything that we just changed. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to freeze some panes, because sometimes a record number has so many fields in it that you can't see it all on one page. In this case we can see everything because we've auto fit the columns, but let's go ahead and just do this together. Let's stretch out the member ID number so that it covers 3 of the columns all together, so it covers last name and first name. So I've made it extra wide, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but what I'm trying to do is get all my records in each field to be bigger than one page in general, so that I have a bar at the bottom that I can actually move and view. Okay, so when I move the bar to the right, and if you'll do this with me, you'll kind of experience it too. You'll notice that the records obviously move, but you can't see the record number and you can't see the person's name. You can only see the cell phones and the membership type. So what we want to do is freeze this member pane column. So to freeze it, let's select it by clicking on member ID so that we have the first column completely highlighted, and let's go to our records group and choose more, and let's freeze these fields. And then now let's move our bar at the bottom, and as you can see, that first field stays frozen, and you can see all the other data moving across. So if I wanted to, for instance, just look at membership type, I could see only the member ID and the membership type. Okay, so we still have this member ID selected, so let's go back and defreeze it or unfreeze it. Click on more and unfreeze all fields, and then if you will click anywhere else, you'll deselect them, and as you rotate or as you move to the right again on the bar, it's unfrozen. Next, let's put some color in every other row so that we can see a little bit easier with our eyes as we move across the page. So to do that, let's go up to text formatting, and this far right hand icon is the alternative row or alternate row color button, And let's choose this green color. It's the very first one, and it's olive green accent 3 lighter 80, and click that. And now you'll notice that every other line has a shade to it, which makes it easier to read. Okay, now let's pretend like we're going to print. So let's click on your, sorry, I'm a little bit ahead of you guys here. So let's click on our, let's go to File, Print, and let's choose Print Preview. And here we want to be looking at landscape format. So under Page Layout, click the Landscape button. And at the bottom, click your Next Page button. And you'll notice that there's still some more of your database still on page 2. It might be a little bit small, but if you click on the zoom button, it'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see the details. Okay, let's go ahead and close our print preview. Okay, in order to print in Access, usually we want you to put a header or a footer with your name, your class name, and the page number or the date. But there are no headers and footers in Access. So what we have to do is close out your member tab at the top by right-clicking on it and hitting close so that you have nothing in your database. It's completely closed. And then under Tables Member, right-click on Member and rename it. Rename it so that it is a dash with your name. And hit Enter. Okay, now you can do File, Save Database As, and it will still save as members because that's also the file name. The database underneath that we just renamed is a subgroup inside of the database. So members is still going to be the name of your file, so you'll need to go ahead and put a dash, and you can also name this with your last name like so, and make sure it's in your H drive and hit save. Okay, let's not print it right now. We'll print it at a later date when we actually do all of our printings at one time. So make sure that you save this and it's available for you to pull back up at a later time. Okay, and there's one last thing that I forgot to tell you. So another thing that we need to do before we actually save is in a database, whenever you're making changes and moving pieces of information around, when it does save it in the RAM, which is the in the temporary part of the computer, and it hasn't completely saved it to your file, sometimes things get fragmented, like a piece of data that belongs with one record might be placed in another, in an inefficient spot in that area. So what we want to do is, before we save anything, is under File, we want to go to Compact and Repair Database. And when you click that, if it's a very large database, it'll take could take up to a minute, but in a small database like this, it is pretty instantaneous, so you don't even notice that it really did anything. But again, it's File and then Compact and Repair Database, and let it do its thing. It's done now. And then let's do File and Save Database As, and go ahead and save it over what you just did a second ago. Okay, so that's the very last thing that we want to do. To close out the file, we want to say File and Close Database. And that is the end of the step-by-steps for Chapter 1. Now you can move on to the projects. Let's start with Project 1-1 and then move on to 1-2, 1-3. Okay, we'll complete all of those, and then you'll have further instructions on the printing process later. Okay, thanks guys.